lot of you on YouTube know me as Raging Rob Kinnison. I do a lot of videos on conspiracy theories and a lot of shit like that. Well, I've researched a lot of, in my time, I've researched a lot of high-profile cases, like Charles Manson and a lot of serial killer cases. I've been doing a lot of research on a lot of these cases. It's just something I'm interested in doing. It's just something that I have a hobby doing. You know, I like researching stuff like that. It's just what I'm interested in. I'm not a sociopath or anything. It's just something I'm interested in. Well, anyway, I've been researching this one case. It's called the West Memphis 3. Basically, a couple of weeks ago was the 25-year anniversary of the... No, it was like last month. May 6th? Yeah, about a month ago. Was the 25th anniversary of the West Memphis 3 case. Which basically what happened was, in West Memphis, Arkansas, in 1993, 3 boys, they came up missing. They were 8 years old. They came up missing. They were found dead, I think, the next day in a wooded area, just right all along the I-40, right behind a Blue Beacon truck wash. That Blue Beacon truck wash isn't there anymore. It was actually torn down and rebuilt about a mile up the road. So that area now, the woods have been taken down, and the Blue Beacon truck stop was torn down. If you look on Google Maps, you can see where the you could see where the driveway's at and where the Blue Beacon used to be. If you message me on Facebook or whatever, I could show you I could screen cap it and show you where the Blue Beacon used to be. Well, yeah. But anyway, so these 3 boys came up murdered, and they found their bodies naked. They're 8 years old, all of them, and they found their bodies naked in the woods. One of them had their penis cut off, and it was a high-profile case back in the day, 93, I think it was. So anyway, these 3 teenagers were accused of the crime. Damien Echols, Jesse, what's that guy's name? Something Jr., and Jason Baldwin. They're just teenagers, 16, 17, 18 years old. Damien Echols was allegedly a Satanist, but he wasn't really a Satanist, but he was a worshiper of the religion called Wicca, I think it was called. It's basically where you worship the earth. And he had these other 2 kids, Jesse and Jason, that had low IQs. They were also accused of the crime. Well, the way the story is playing out, that maybe these boys were murdered in a satanic ritual led by Damien Echols. And Jason and Damien were good friends in high school or whatever, and that's the story that was being told. They were convicted. Jesse and Jason both got a life sentence. Damien Echols was sentenced to death row. In 2011, they were released because I think new evidence came out. But they were released, but they had to plead guilty to second-degree murder, and the judge gave them time served. All 3 of them are now free. I think Jason still lives in Arkansas. Jesse moved up to Washington or something like that. And Damien, he moved to New York City, which now he's relocated and married with a kid up in Massachusetts. But I've been researching this case for quite some time. I first heard about this case when I was 13 years old. I was watching HBO. It was like 96 when it came out on HBO, and I watched it the first time I was on HBO. I was 13. That's the first time I heard about it. So throughout the years, I've looked into this, done some research on this West Memphis 3, and the more research I do, I'm finding out some very interesting stuff. And the more and more that I know for a fact that these 3 teenagers are innocent and they are not the killers. So I'm going to give you my theory on what happened and tell me what you think in the comment section below. Here's my theory after doing research on this. Well, there's one kid, the one 8-year-old, I think his name is Christopher Byers. He had a stepdad. I can't remember his name. But the stepdad, which obviously not his flesh and blood because, stepdad. But this stepdad was kind of, loony. If you follow this case, you know what I'm talking about. This guy was loony up here. So anyway, Where am I at? Okay, 5 minutes. So anyway, now rumor has it that the stepdad hid a bisexual relationship behind his wife. With another guy who was a accused pedophile, or I guess he had some convictions for child abuse, domestic violence, and I guess he was suspected of some sex crimes with children or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. He was a suspected pedophile or whatever, and that guy was gay or bisexual, and the stepdad had some kind of relationship, these two. And I'm not sure, but I think there might have been a third guy involved, maybe a black guy. Not to be racist or anything, but you're going to see where this comes in. The black guy thing. You know, you're going to, as I go on, you're going to learn what I'm talking about. But anyway, so basically, from the evidence that I've done research on, my theory, from what I've found, now I could be wrong, and I could be right. But if you look on Google Maps where the Blue Beacon truck wash, they found the three boys' bodies behind where the Blue Beacon truck wash used to be. It was a wooded area known as Robin Hood Hills or something like that. It was by a creek, kind of like a hilly area. Well, their bodies were found behind this truck wash. Well, the truck wash obviously is torn down, and they relocated the truck wash, rebuilt it a mile up the road. I'm not sure if they rebuilt it because the case was high profile or whatever, but anyway, if you look on Google Maps where the truck wash used to be, right next to where the truck wash used to be is a couple of motels, and we're talking cheap motels. There's a Holiday Inn there now, but I think back in the day it was just a couple of cheapskate hotels, and those are known for gays meeting up and having sex. Cheapskate motels, you know what I mean? So my theory is that the stepdad and his gay lover, they went to this cheapskate motel. They were seen in the parking lot. I think there's a third guy involved. And they lived in a trailer park not far from where the murder scene happened. If you look on the Google Maps, you'll find a trailer park just south of the I-40 from where the murder scene was at. But here's the interesting thing. I think Damien Echols and the two boys, the other two teens that were accused of this crime, that were convicted, also lived in the same trailer park. I'm pretty sure. Kind of coincidental, huh? Here's the kicker. So basically, my theory is these three boys, they were riding their bikes, and the trailer park, they went from the trailer park because the stepdad, he lived in the trailer park as well. And I guess the father of one of the other boys was, I'm not sure, was bisexual or something, and was having a bisexual relationship with the stepdad behind the wife's back, and he didn't want the wife finding out. That's what I've been hearing. And anyway, so the three boys came from the trailer park, they're riding their bikes, and the one boy who was the stepson of the stepdad, pure coincidence, just happened to run into his stepdad while they're in the parking lot, and he wasn't supposed to, and the stepdad found him, and they chased him into the woods because they seen too much, and he didn't want his wife finding out that he was bisexual. So that's what led to the boys' deaths. So he wanted to kill the stepson, but the other two boys were just murdered because they were there and they were a witness. So if you look at the evidence, and there was a 1996 movie on HBO that came out. They said that the Byers, the son of the stepdad, had more injuries than the other two. So it sounds like that stepson was killed by malice, meaning anger, and the other two were just killed by being a witness. And they did find one of the boys with the penis chopped off, because now the gay lover of the stepdad was suspected of being a pedophile. But that's just, I may be wrong, but that's just what I came up with the research that I've done over some time. And I believe that the West Memphis police are corrupted and they covered this up. Maybe they had some kind of connection to the police department. Because Jason Baldwin, he was one of the teens that was accused in this crime. He lived in a trailer. I think he lived in a trailer park or close proximity to where the murder scene was. And the dive team found a knife at the bottom of a lake behind his house. Well, when that knife, they didn't find any bloodstains on it or any evidence of any blood from the murder scene on the knife. That's what one detective was saying when he testified. So it sounds like somebody from the police department threw the knife in the back of the lake behind his house, behind Jason's house, to try to frame him. But here's the thing: they didn't find the knife until the start of the trial. So it sounds like they sent a dive team deliberately there to find a knife. They knew exactly where to look because they started the dive team. The detective testified that the dive team started the dive at 10:30 a.m. They found a knife at 11:30 a.m. So they found the knife at the bottom of the lake, and it only took them 1 hour to find a knife. Sounds like they knew where the knife was. They knew about where the knife was thrown at into the lake. Trying to frame Jason. And they found the knife 5 months after the murder when the trial started. So, okay, now's the right time to go get the knife for a guaranteed conviction for Jason, to frame him. Sounds like corruption in the West Memphis Police Department. But that's my theory. I could be right or wrong. And they also had a pocket knife that the stepdad owned, which they found blood consistency on the pocket knife that was consistent to blood found at the scene on one of the boys' bodies. And this stepdad, if I can't remember his name, Byers something. If you take a look at this guy seemed kind of, something's going on there. So that's my theory. And the black guy thing. Well, now I'm not sure. There was allegedly a third guy in the parking lot of the hotel. Now I'm not sure if that was a black guy or not, but that's what I've been hearing. My theory is that this mysterious black guy, because they at the murder scene they found a fiber, a black that came from, they said, a black guy. The fiber was a black hair that had to come from a black guy. Not to be racist, but I'm just telling you what the evidence said. So my theory is that maybe the two were in the parking lot with a gay black guy, and the black guy, with the two other guys, chased the boys into the woods, and the black guy was against it, like, hey, what are you guys doing? And he was against it, so the other two were going to kill him. But he got away. That would explain how he got a cut on his arm. So when he ran from the scene, he ran into a nearby restaurant called Bojangles, I think was the name of it. He went into the restaurant. Now, the manager who testified at trial said he ran into the women's restaurant. So my guess is the men's restroom was locked. He went into the women's restroom. They found a lot of blood on the wall in the women's restroom. The manager called 911 saying, hey, there's a guy in here. He ran into the women's restroom. He's bleeding from his arm. The cops showed up. They had a female cop go through the drive-thru of the restaurant but didn't come inside. The next day, 2 detectives came inside, took blood samples from the woman's restroom. Now this guy, he took off, and this black guy, he took off and he was never seen again. So my guess is that maybe he was scared to come forward, or maybe he had a warrant out for his arrest and didn't want to come forward, something like that. So just this mysterious black guy. So they never found this guy, and the kicker is the one detective, when at trial, he got on the witness stand and says that they lost the evidence from the restaurant. I believe that if they would have found that evidence from the restaurant, that this would have been a not guilty case for these 3 boys. I believe they're wrongly convicted. I believe that they set these boys up because they lived in the same trailer park as the stepdad. And they set Damien Echols up because they thought he was a Satanist when he actually wasn't. He worshipped the Wicca religion. And these two boys, Jason and Jesse, they had a very low IQ, so they're easy to coerce into, lying, threaten them or whatever. But they also had two little girls that testified and said, yeah, we heard Damien and Jason talking, saying they murdered them. But the way that they're on trial talking, I mean, the one girl, both of them, you could tell they're lying. They were coerced or threatened into testifying. The one girl, she came up and a lot of her answers was, I don't know. The prosecutor asked her, well, did he yell it? Did he yell that he murdered him or not? Well, I don't know. How could you not know if you were close by? Sounds like they were coerced into lying. Then you had another guy who he claimed he was an inmate of, a fellow inmate of Jason when he was in jail. Well, Jason allegedly told him that, oh yeah, I murdered the boys. But that guy was caught in a lie too, because he only had 2 conversations with Jason, and they were both within 6 months apart of each other. I mean, it just if you've seen the movie, look up who the hell's calling me? Just look up West Memphis 3. It's like a 2.5-hour movie. I think it's in 2 parts, and you'll see the one guy at the end of the first part, how he's testifying. You could tell this guy's lying. I mean, there's so much corruption in the West Memphis Police Department, it's insane. So that's my theory on the West Memphis 3. So I've heard this case years ago, and I wanted to throw it out there because I'm doing some research on it. A month ago was a 25-year anniversary. But I believe that, I know there's a God, and if you can get away with it down here, but you're not going to get away with it with the Lord upstairs, and that's the way it is. So these killers, they might get away with it down here, but they ain't going to get away with it from God. So anyway, that's the video, and check out more videos. As always, more videos coming soon.